All right. Now, we're going to dive a little bit more into the window of visibility, but to give you a little bit of insight and background into this, okay, only 0.5% of U9s at the top academy clubs will develop into first team players. So if players at the U9 age group of Manchester United, Manchester City, PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, whatever big club you want to pick, only 0.5% of their U9 players are going to develop into first team players. Now, you're going to see shortly later on in this master plan that we're going to dive into a lot of the FIFA regulations. Okay, but to give you a little bit of insight into it now to see why that happens. Essentially, at current standing, FIFA rules restrict where clubs are allowed to get players inside a certain mile radius or a kilometer radius. And at 14 years old, that radius opens wider. So instead of being, say, 50 miles, it opens up to being like 500 miles. And it might not be that much, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. I'm exaggerating the concept a little bit to give you an idea of what it looks like. So when that happens, it opens up the playing pool for clubs. So that way, when that radius opens, instead of just having, let's say, really local talent, they can start picking players still maybe inside their country or in countries local to them, but then they can still take players, okay, or sign players to their academy. Now, to give you a little bit more insight into the 1%. Now, when we're discussing the window of visibility, a club is going to bring a player into the academy because they think that player has potential and they're better than the current level than what they have. What you need to understand about professional clubs is that their goal, especially if they're in Europe or South America, the goal of a club is to develop a future first team player. So that means the players like Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, Neymar, they all went into a club. That club's goal is to develop a future professional player. Okay. Now, as you can see here, less than 1% of players are going to make it. And to give you a little bit more insight into this, at Joel's club, on average, they have one player graduate from the academy per year. So at the U19 age group, they have on average 30 players, and one is going to graduate and go to the first team. So that means 29 players, give or take on average, are not going to be selected or offered a pro team contract. So that should help give you a little bit of insight or a better idea of what the window of visibility is. It's the club identifying a player or players with potential to become first team players. This process really starts at the U13 to U15 age groups. It can be a little bit before and it can be a little bit after. But generally speaking, that window of identification is U13 to U15. And that's why the FIFA rules at this point are at U14, the radius expands for club selection. Okay? Now, at U15 to U17, that's when they start identifying when the player will be ready, if ready, to play first team football. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to break that down to give you an idea how that works in the next video. Okay? But that should hopefully give you a little bit more ideas into how it works. As I mentioned before, though, only 1% are going to make it. That means there's 99% that are not going to be offered a professional contract. So those players really have two options, right? Quit, or two, grind. And what I mean by grind is they're going to have to do what N'Golo Kante did, or Jamie Vardy did, or many other players that were not identified or selected to the pro team through the academy. They're going to have to go to lower levels, maybe non-professional football, maybe get a job, and work their way up. So the question that I'm going to ask you now, since you're listening and watching, is, would you rather eat or play pro? Now, when we're talking about this question, or that question, is you need to understand how bad do you want to make it? Because if you're an N'Golo Kante or a Jamie Vardy, if you go out and you follow their pathway, for a little while they had to get a second job, or they had to go get a job just to pay their bills because they weren't professional footballers. They had to work their way through the process. And when you sign that first pro contract, you're probably not making that much money, which means you might still need to get another job. Until you work and work and work your way up the system, that's how it's going to be. So building a network and being proactive for a 99% type of player is 100% necessary. Performing really well and loving the grind, loving the uncomfortability, loving the painful process. That's how you're going to make it. So hopefully this makes a little bit more sense into the window of visibility. In the next video, I'm really going to break down how a club will identify if the player's ready or not. So see you in the next video.